Tort of Nuisance, the first thing that need to know is what means by nuisance. Nuisance is a civil wrong. It involves a person or many people causing indirect, unauthorized, and/or unreasonable obstruction with the interest of others. It can be causes damages, loss, or annoyance to others. When the defendant liable to the tort, he has to pay compensation to plaintiff. Trespass and nuisance have close relationship, but both of them are different. Trespass is involving physical trespass of other property, while nuisance is avoid interference with the use of land. Besides that, nuisance is focused on the nature of particular interests that have been invaded or disrupted, not people. There are two types of nuisance. First is private nuisance. Another nuisance is public nuisance. Now I will introduce private nuisance. Private nuisance is an interference with the plaintiff's use or enjoyment of his or her property. For example, construction work in progress causing damage to adjacent property, open burning, and produce noise constantly. There are three elements must be proved when the plaintiff claims for the compensation. First, plaintiff having a position interest in land. Second, defendant committed acts that disrupt with the plaintiff use and enjoyment his or her property. Last, defendant intervention in the plaintiff use or enjoyment of the land was substantial and unreasonable. The most controversial issue is about the definition of substantial and unreasonable in third elements. So, what is substantial? Substantial is an obstruction to a person that will cause rude, troublesome, or annoying. The factors will be considered by the courts are any financial loss to the plaintiff, any physical change in the property, other endanger is proceed. For note, this is the minimum standard for the courts to consider. Next, what is unreasonable? To determine whether the activity is unreasonable, the courts have been developed two standards. First, neighborline standard. By neighborline standard, the activity will determine according to the location and characteristic of the property and applicability of the activities. Next, usefulness standard. Usefulness standard is a modern method to define the unreasonable. The courts will consider the functionality of the activities. Thus, the courts can identify whether the activities are significant and beneficial for society or having negative effect to the part of population. Here is an example case. Alkohol v. Perbadanan Badan BBR Management SDN PhD. Let's see the video together.
Yes, I finally buy a penthouse. It's dream come true. This house is very comfortable and beautiful.
2 weeks later.
I want to sue the developer and management agent. I cannot tolerate the noise nuisance from a water pump situated above the penthouse. When the pump stops functioning, a clear banging sound is heard. The noise happened daily, about twice an hour each time.
The court held that the continuous occurrence of noise had an impact on the plaintiff's enjoyment of property. Thus, this case is a legal nuisance and the developer is liable for the damages, and he had to pay the compensation to the plaintiff.
After private nuisance, now is public nuisance. Public nuisance is a person has disrupted the public properties or public rights and caused a variety of minor crimes that treated the health, safety, comfort, enjoyment, or interest of the society. For example, water pollution, air pollution, and disrupt the facility in park. In this high-tech and densely populated society, dispute is unpreventable. So, who has the right to sue the public nuisance? First is public authorities responsible for protecting public rights such as Ministry of Health, Department of Environment, and Ministry of Transport. Second is those who suffer special injuries due to nuisance. The harms are different from the injury of general public. Plaintiff can claim recompense from the defendant. The compensation includes value of the things reduced and reduction of the property value. If an activity is constantly carried on and causes nuisance, the court has the right to order to stop the activity. However, the courts also have to consider about the social utility. When the social utility of the activities are bigger than the nuisance caused to the plaintiff, the courts will not order to stop the activities, but the courts will command the defendants to pay compensation to the plaintiff constantly. Here is an example of public nuisance. Let's do a view of this video.
Do you smell a bad smell?
Yes, I do. Where it's come from?
I think it's come from the factory.
Yes, I agree with you.
I cannot tolerate with this smell. Can I sue the factory?
Don't be so angry, you are pregnant. I think you can sue the factory because this consider as public nuisance.
Here is the differences between private and public nuisance. First is definition. Private nuisance is an interference with the plaintiff's use or enjoyment of his or her property, while public nuisance is a person had disrupted the public properties or public rights and caused a variety of minor crimes that treated the health, safety, comfort, enjoyment, or interest of the society. Next, nature. Private nuisance. Injury is caused to individual. Public nuisance. Injury is caused to public. Right to sue. Private nuisance. Every plaintiff has right to sue the defendant. Public nuisance. Public authorities responsible for protecting public rights and those who have suffered special injury due to nuisance has the right to sue. Remedy. For private nuisance, plaintiff can claim compensation from the defendant. Public nuisance. Prohibition of any illegal act or omission. Plaintiff. For private nuisance, there is one plaintiff. For public nuisance, a group of plaintiffs. Type of act. Private nuisance. Tortious act. Public nuisance. Tortious act and crime. Here is the end of the video. I have a quiz for the audience. The question is, Justin and Jack is neighbor. Justin loves singing, but Justin is not good at singing. Every midnight, Justin will sing very loud. Jack cannot withstand the noise. He frequently insomnia due to the bad singing Justin. A. Is this considered a nuisance? If yes, which type of nuisance? B. What action can take by Jack? You can leave your answer below the comment. After 10 seconds, the answer of the question will show to you. That's all about the Tort of Nuisance. Thank you for your watching.